Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Jim Stroud podcast. Today we have a very special guest. Special guest, tell us, who are you and what do you do?
I am Dayna Guido. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I live in North Carolina, in Asheville, North Carolina. And at this point in my career, 46 years into this career, I do mainly providing clinical supervision and ethics consultations. And so I do a kind of a combination of both. I still see some clients, but the bulk of my work is around supervision and ethics. And then recently has been integrating that into AI and the coming of AI.
I bet that keeps you busy.
It does. It does. It keeps me very busy. Yep. Yeah. In a good way. In a good way.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I have so many questions. So many questions. First question being, do employees, in your opinion, have a right to know if AI was involved in hiring, promotions, or layoffs?
I think people in general, so yes, employees have a right to know if AI is being used. I think that the transparency is extremely important for all of us human beings. I really believe in this, and I think it's the human connection's important. And there's using AI tools is great. I mean, I think there's so much that we can profit in, or not, maybe profit's the wrong word, but we can benefit from using AI tools. And I think if you're going to use them in an interview process, that's great. I think it's really important to let people know in advance. I think that is an unfair advantage to not let people know in advance so that they're ready for that type of interview. I'm not sure that I've been interviewed for a job. I haven't been interviewed for a job in a while because there's just what I do, it's just a little bit different. I would want to know in advance so that I'm prepared for that. And I mean, maybe I'm making a joke that it isn't really, I wouldn't use that type of joke. I wouldn't use that kind of human connection with AI. I would be answering questions a little bit differently. I would want to know that. And I also would want to be working for an organization that's transparent in all of what they do when they're hiring. Right?
Yeah,
It's just some
yeah, yeah.
honesty and it makes me trust or gives me some one level of trust. I mean, I remember a long time ago, well, so this was with my first supervisor, my first clinical supervisor, and she told me how your interview process and what happens in the interview process is oftentimes symbolic of what the rest of the job for the rest of your years there is going to be like. And she told me that after I had left supervision with her and I'd give her a call, I had moved to North Carolina, and the interview process with a place that I was interviewing with was extremely complicated. And this was back in the 1980s. And so, it was before AI, and it was before we had voicemail. We had answering machines. I mean, we had no voicemail. We didn't have email, and so leaving a message, it wasn't I what they weren't getting back to me. It was very disorganized. And I remember calling her up and talking to her, and she gave me that bit of advice to say that it often is, if you can take the job, be aware that there's going to be some disorganization at the leadership at that level. And in fact, I took the job and there was some disorganization at that level. And one of the things that I was committed to doing was helping that at that level of organization to have it be a little bit smoother and more transparent in communication. So if I say I'm going to get back to you, I'm going to do that. Well, if you're being interviewed by AI, then that might be that other procedures are being handled in the organization by AI. No problem with that. Let us know. And that's where I'm seeing some of the convergence with the ethics. I mean,
Hmm.
it's not really an ethics issue, but it kind of is. It gets to just importance of human relationships that I deem it's important to be honest with you and let you know the way that we hire here.
I think when you mention ethics, one of the things that triggers my thinking around that is, sorry about that, is accountability, right?
Yes.
So when
Yeah.
an algorithm rejects a candidate before a recruiter even sees them, who's ultimately accountable? The machine, the vendor, or the HR leader?
Right. I think that's where the question is. And
Yeah.
and would candidates want to know that in advance because they might think the way that I'm going to write this, or the way that I'm going to submit my application, or the way that I'm going to be interviewed for the first take is going to be through AI. So there's some punch words that I need to be saying versus, because that's going to come up in the algorithm. Or if it's not, if it's a human being, what are the things I'm going to ask? Like, so, you know, I heard that you had some kids. How are your kids doing? I mean, maybe that's not appropriate to interview, but there's a personalization in there. So it might be something like, I started in this by saying where I live. I live in Asheville, North Carolina. Well, we're coming up on a year anniversary of the storm of Helene. For some people, if I was in an interview, that would be the human approach of like, how are
Yeah.
you doing? And then you get into what's going on in the interview, right? There's a
Hmm.
human approach. The way I was taught to interview people was there's a human quality. Can this person engage in a conversation with me? Right? Is
Yeah.
that going to happen if you're being interviewed by AI? Or if you're sending it in and it's not even getting to a human connection at that point in time. It's being I don't know, farmed out before it even. I mean, I guess if you get thousands of applicants, you got to decide this somewhere in a business of what to do. But I think that's appropriate to say our first level of discernment, or our first level of weeding out, is through this process.
For sure, for sure. As you say that, I was thinking about these different types of AI surveillance tools out there that companies use to boost productivity. They
Right.
may track the movement patterns in the office. They may track how stressed you are because you're wearing a Fitbit or something, and they monitor that kind of information. All that to say, is it ethical to track worker productivity with these different AI surveillance tools if it improves efficiency, but at the same time destroys trust between the worker and the company?
I would say it depends on the ethics that you're working under.
Ah, okay.
Right. And
Okay.
so, and I think it's probably the business and the way that they run their business. I think
Hmm.
many people would want to know that before joining an organization, that I'm going to be secretly monitored, versus we're just going to monitor you. We're going to monitor everybody's Fitbit, and we're doing this for the well-being of the employees. Wow, that's transparent. We want you to be healthy. We want to make sure that people's blood pressure is not going up every time the boss walks through you know, through the sick section or something. That's about care. That's about, we really are monitoring because we care about you, versus we are monitoring because you are a cog in this machine and we don't really care about you. What we care about is productivity. I just think that people get to know if that's the case or not. And that's where the ethics come in. Are we relating to people as human beings or as a cog in the machine?
Ooh,
Right?
that's yeah, yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And I
It,
mean, I think that, if as long as we know that there are monitors out there and that we're being monitored, then okay, I can choose whether or not I want this job or not.
you know, as you said, every time you say something, it gets my my brain to run. I'm wondering, could AI ever truly be unbiased? Because we program these tools,
Exactly.
so essentially, are they just a mirror of our own prejudices with a polished veneer or something?
I mean, that's what we know right now. And so
Yeah.
there's some bias that's inherent in whoever programmed them, and whoever programmed them, whichever bodies of people have programmed them, what are they like, and are they as inclusive as we might want them to be? And that includes, even if it includes languaging models. I mean, if we're hiring somebody that maybe language isn't part of their job skill. Maybe they're doing something that's more technical, um, but they're an immigrant, or they're second generation, but their parents spoke a different language. Their language might be at a different, that they might get weeded out by AI because of that language. I
Mm.
mean, I'm aware of this. I have my grandparents were born in another country. They were all four of them were born in Greece, and my parents were first generation. They were both born here, both born in Chicago area, but both of them didn't speak English when they went to kindergarten. They spoke Greek. And
Mm.
so they were the kind of ambassadors in their family with their other siblings to come home and teach the parents English. Uh,
Huh.
but in nowadays, what would that would you get pulled out of class? I just was hearing a report of the two young men that were pulled out of class because of their last name, a kind of Hispanic last name, and they were assuming they didn't speak English, so they put them into a lower grade. Both of the brothers were put into lower grades, and it wasn't until a few weeks in or a month in or something that they realized that these boys spoke proficient English. They were not from another country. They were from this country. Their parents were from this country. They had a Spanish last name or a Hispanic last name. And so what's that going to does that change it? So that was human error and it got changed. But what happens with AI when we can't catch it then? Like in this situation, there was then teachers, and then they apologize and they work with it, and there's human beings, and so we're discussing it, and we can make a change. If it's a situation with AI where it weeds it out and spits back out somebody, and we never even know, well, what are we missing? And so businesses, what are they missing in terms of the applicants coming in? It might be some really wonderful candidates for those jobs that are getting pulled out because of the bias of AI.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it makes you wonder who should define fairness overall when it comes to an algorithm. Is it the data scientists? Is it the regulators? Is it the HR leaders? Is it the company?
Right. And I would probably argue it's a combination, it's a collaboration.
Hmm.
Right? If we're going to
Hmm.
really look at this holistically, it's not just one. It's not just my opinion. My opinion as a clinician, might look at it in a different way than an engineer or a technician. My opinion, even as a mental health clinician, would look at it different from a physician, a medical physician. Right? We have different viewpoints. I think our world is so complex. It's important to be looking at things both from a macro lens and a micro lens. And I think that that's one of the things that ethics does. Is ethics talks about we need to have some we need to have some opportunities in here to discuss it further, to collaborate with different programs or different departments. We're all looking at it rather than just one person is doing that. The HR person is making the decision for this whole department or whoever it would be.
Yeah. My my dad, God rest his soul, he was ex-military, so he's big on accountability. All right, who's in charge here? Who's making decisions, right? And
Yes,
so, as you said, I'm wondering, so who's ultimately responsible for any issues that may come from using these AI tools? Is it the vendors? Because I can already imagine, say, a potential lawsuit coming up to a company. The first thing the company's going to do is say, it's not us. We trusted the vendor that their AI tool was first rate, but it obviously wasn't because it discriminated in some case. So don't get mad at us, get mad at the vendor.
exactly.
Um, so
Hmm.
who's ultimately responsible? Is it a vendor? Is it the AI model itself? Is it the company? Is it some? I mean, who's where does the buck stop?
Well, that's one of the biggest questions is about the accountability and ethics.
Yeah,
If we could follow some ethical guideline here, we would know where that accountability is. There would be some discussion about it and it would be transparent. But when things are not transparent, it makes it very easy to not be accountable.
good point.
Hmm.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah,
Transparency is key in all of this.
right,
Um,
right.
I this is the sort of an unusual um, case study here that I'm going to divulge. I'm not going to mention any names, but there are some AI tools that can reasonably predict whether or not an employee is likely to quit, right? So
Hmm.
let's say you're sitting in HR, you're in the HR chair, and the magic AI just said Jim is getting ready to quit based on all of our data. You as HR leader, should you act on that information, or would you think that is sort of profiling, or Yeah, where's that profile?
I would think that from my perspective that there is some profiling there and it's some information that we would take in, we would put it in a whole, again, a whole big toolbox of something that we're looking at. And it's one
Mm,
of the considerations. So AI is telling us this. What am I, are there some reasons behind it? And can I dig deeper to find out anything about that? Maybe the person just had a very strong allergic reaction to the medication they were taking that morning and they look like they're off center. This stuff happens, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So isn't there some responsibility in the organization? And don't you want to keep the turnover from happening? I mean, I think turnover is a big issue. And if
Yeah,
AI is constantly saying that this person is going to quit, this person's going to do this, I mean, human beings there's a ebb and flow to us as human beings. We are natural organisms and we will not always show up the exact same way, but we're dealing with other human beings and that's okay. That's part of what we want to also do is be able to we can't have just perfection. We can't always life just can't just go along and be one way all the time in a status quo. That's actually not natural, and we are learning that quickly that that leads to some burnout, that leads to more stress and more mental health and health issues. It's not a healthy thing to expect that people are going to show up in one way all of the time. That's not human beings. It's not
yeah.
nature. Nature doesn't do that. Nature has cycles, right?
So
We have
true.
seasons, we have cycles, we have, there's times when leaves come out and then there's times when leaves fall. I mean, it just happens. Nature, all animals have cycles. And we have cycles just throughout the day. So is AI reading this data point at 3 o'clock every day when somebody dips a little bit? Or are they taking the data throughout the whole day? Where are they taking that data? Human resources, a person that's behind that, would start to look at the whole picture and not
Mm-hmm.
just one thing. Not when the person, an employee comes and has just been in a traffic accident and comes running into the office a few minutes late. I was working with somebody yesterday and she was pretty out of sorts. It's a consult I was doing and she was having a difficult time. It turned out she had been in a car accident last week. It was at a school, so there was a lot of kids around and it was upsetting. And the insurance company and the adjuster at the insurance company was making a different decision than the body shop and all this kind of stuff. And she actually started to talk a little bit about that and just unloaded it to say, this is why I'm a little out of sorts today. I took that into, and then we were able to pace it a little bit different. We still got the work done. Later on, she wrote back and she said, "Thanks so much. That was really helpful. And the insurance adjuster and the body shop have just agreed, and I'm all set." you know, if AI was involved in that, would they know and would not they would AI understand, would be able to dig a little bit deeper to say what else is going on for you? It seems like something's happening here that I'm missing right now, rather than I'm watching your productivity and it is not where it normally is. Now I'm going to make a recommendation to in your file or something like that to HR
Yeah.
to say this person didn't hit the mark today.
This the whole scenario makes me wonder, should HR leaders treat employee data as company property or as something borrowed with the consent of the worker? Where's the
That's a
ethics
good
in
question.
that?
Yes, that's right. That's right. What goes into that data bank? I mean, so that really comes a lot into what we're working on from health and mental health about the privacy of records. And if AI is doing the documentation, AI is doing even the diagnosis, AI is doing this whole big thing for us, and then we are they HIPAA compliant records? Is there privacy? Where is that going? And if it's HIPAA compliant, what do we do with these security breaches, which are happening
Yeah.
daily? I
Yeah.
mean, it's not that it will never happen. Security breaches happen and that data is up there someplace, somebody can get to it, and now there's no privacy for that. So what do we never share with anybody? Can we not really share as human beings? Well, then we go back into the human connection and back into how can people manage in this world where, what was the word that you had said in another podcast? I said this to you last time when we spoke. AI, I'm trying to find my notes. Oh, can't remember it now. Too bad. The whole idea of where there was this AI induced fatigue, that was it. AI
Oh,
induced
AI fatigue. Yeah.
AI fatigue. Well, if we're always being held to this one level, right? And that's how we have
Hmm.
to perform all of the time, and that there's always change, because I think you were discussing it in terms of change. There's improved model, there's improved model of this. At some point, we have got to have some moments to calm down, to de-stress, to
Yeah.
practice some stillness, to get some I mean, we know that practicing, you got to practice something 20, 30 times. Well, in an AI model, it keeps changing every day. Every day you could go up and go to work and there's a new improved model. The amount of stress that's adding to people's lives. I mean, the Fitbits are going to monitor that. So all
Yeah.
that private? Is that information private? Is it part of your record? Is that what you're signing up for employment?
Yeah. It's almost like to your point about the Fitbits. It's almost like they can become a micromanagement tool.
That's
To the
exactly
nth
right. That's
degree.
exactly right. I mean, I know a lot of people are using them or they're using, their watches to monitor their sleep at night. It's
Yeah.
like, and I know there's reasons that sometimes that's really helpful. I monitored once or twice. I checked it out. I saw some patterns for me, and now I like put that away because I just want to sleep. You know what I mean? I just like, like at what point can I also trust my own body and my own knowledge? So here's another part of what I've been talking about is the whole idea that we regulate oneself, we regulate ourselves. And I have an ethical courage decision making model that when we are making an ethical decision, we stop at various points in the decision making time as we're looking at it, and we regulate our own emotions, our own body. We regulate ourselves so that we are coming from a place that is more grounded. We can make a wise decision rather than we are making this impulsively because we're being timed on something. And that's not really what we're trained to do. As an EMS worker, maybe, but that's not what most of us are trained to do, emergency work in that way.
Mm. There was a layoff announced on the news uh, from I think it was Spirit Airlines is going to lay off a significant number of people, which is news but not news because there's so many layoffs
Right.
these days, unfortunately, and a lot of people are being displaced by AI, and it makes me wonder. Different companies treat the layoffs differently. Some just say bye, and some will at least give you some sort of severance, and others may um, try to upskill you in some way by availing training to you.
Right.
What's the ethical responsibility you think the HR leaders have to reskill employees displaced by AI instead of just laying them off? Should it be mandatory that the ethical thing to do is to train you on this AI stuff before we let you go, or just bye? What
Right.
do you think?
I think it would be interesting to look at what the values are at that workplace and what
Hmm.
they espouse as their mission and what they, how they present themselves. And so if they're, sometimes let's just say the tagline is, this airline's employees come first. Well, in that situation, then we really want to be making sure that we're helping our employees. I think it's so different because is it the employer's responsibility, or are they in a state where they can fire anybody at will? Then they're not really responsible in that way. We're going to wonder about our workforce. I mean, do people really want to work in the workforce if this is what's happening? It's very tenuous. I also was thinking as you were saying that there's another caveat to this. Can you imagine?
Okay.
You got AI that has taken over a percentage of the workforce, and so people are being let go. And then what they're given as a support system is to go online, to go onto an AI system for counseling. So AI is going to
Huh.
be, what I mean, talking about some bias in there.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
so many people, they don't have insurance now, they don't have any money to pay for some mental health treatment around this. They have a lot of stress, they might start to have anxiety from it, some other things happen with it. puts a lot of relational issues, going on maybe in a couple or by themselves. Certainly anxiety is going to be at the top of there, as is depression. We're going to see higher increases of that. And so then, we've got more and more models being touted out there that, you can talk to AI about your problems and AI is going to, help you. Well, AI is helping when the AI is who took the job. You
Hmm.
know, that's kind of interesting. How is that? What's the algorithm for that one? I mean, I don't know. Where is the human connection?
Very interesting question.
Yeah.
Very interesting question. This conversation could go on. I know it could. Because I have even more questions popping up in my head. I want to be sensitive to your time. If somebody wanted to contact you for more information or just reach out to you specifically with additional questions about ethics or just in general, how can they find you online?
You can find me on my website of daynaguido.com. So that's Dayna, like Dana, like Dayna. Dayna Guido, DAYNAGUIDO.com. And that's my website and kind of talks about me and what I do. Uh, yeah.
Very cool. And to
And
make the information in the podcast description. So just if you're listening, just scroll down to the podcast description. The link's right there.
thanks.
Dana, thank you so much for your
Appreciate it.
time. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it. I learned a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. Good luck in all this because this is it's taken you many places that you might not have known you were going.
Well, my time is up. I thank you for yours. I'll see you again real soon right here with a brand new episode of the Jim Stroud Podcast. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to reach out to me. I can be reached by email at jimstroud@jimstroud.com. And one last favor, if I may ask, please rate this podcast. 5 stars is preferred, but please comment with your honest opinion. I really appreciate that. All right? Okay, until next time, bye-bye.
10 years from now, will AI ethics be a boardroom topic, a legal requirement, or just another checkbox on HR compliance training?
No, I think it'll be the first two. I think it will be a
Ooh.
boardroom topic. I think it will be, I think that, or whatever the iteration of AI is at the time,
Uh-huh.
and there's going to be some legal issues that arise, partly because of the lack of foresight with getting AI ethically, having an ethical mindset with AI, and also, as we talked before, about collaborating, having ethics committees that are really looking at how a company is using AI and what those
Mm.
platforms are, really, really taking a look at it. So we're going to see I think we're already starting to see some legal things. It's starting to trickle in right now already. And 10 years from now, it seems like that's just it takes legal systems take a while to move. And then hopefully boardrooms are talking about it. If there's legal stuff, boardrooms will talk about it. The
For sure.
checkbox, I mean, that's going to happen, but hopefully it's not just such a routine thing. Hopefully we
Yeah.
have people that care about human connection. Hopefully we have people stand up to say, I want a human connection here. I want to use these tools. They're important. And I am a human being. And there's some great things about being a human being. There's great things about AI, but there's also really wonderful things about being a natural human being. We don't want
Well,
that to go away.
in recognition of your optimism, I hope people put more credence on people over products, over
Yeah,
profit.
yeah, over
I'm a bit
profit.
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm a bit skeptical in my old age, but I'm hoping
Yeah.
the
I feel like
optimism will.
I'm getting so old, Jim. I got to be optimistic. This is like, and that's partly why I'm doing this. I'm not
Mm,
retiring at this point. I'm saying I've got some knowledge based in mental health, and I'm concerned about this. And I'm
yeah,
concerned that we are treating people as human beings and that we're honoring the human condition because that we're in this together.
yeah. And when
Yeah.
I hear statistics about the increased use of certain drugs to deal with depression all these other
Right.
things. That
Mhm.
all of that, although it's public data, it sort of filters into the workplace because people with mental health issues, they work somewhere eventually.
Exactly.
Uh, so it becomes a work issue.
That's right. And I would like to say the way that our society is speeding up with technology, our
Yeah.
brains have not evolutionarily kept up. It can't yet. That's we know that. And so what's happening is we're having more and more mental health issues. We're having more anxiety. We're having more depression. It is what happens when we lose connection. We have an isolate. We talk about the isolation effect. We talk about loneliness effect. Those things
Mm,
happen when we are not relating to human beings. And as social workers, we talk our ethics and our values are talking about enhancing the human well-being. That's important. We are, and that's not going away. We're not going to
right.
change our ethics to enhance AI's productivity. We're going to talk about human beings, and mental health is a part of it.
There is this one last thing before we go. You ever watch the show Mad Men?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. There was an episode I think it was in the last season when they brought in this supercomputer into the office. And it was the size of it took up a whole room. It was so big,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And then I don't remember the guy's name. It was a minor character, but he was an office worker and he saw the computer and he thought the computer was taking away his soul. And he started having a mental breakdown over the course of the episode to the point where he had to be hospitalized.
Yeah,
They had to take him away because he was having such a mental breakdown over the look of this computer. And at that point, when that show debuted, AI had not come to prominence as we know it now, right?
right,
But now, looking back, thinking back on that episode, seeing how that worker had a nervous breakdown, they meant it as sort of a dark comedy kind of thing.
right, right.
But I can see that happening for some people today, having sort of, mental stress, because a lot of people, they have their whole identity wrapped around the work that they do, you know?
Yes.
And
Yeah,
so when AI is taking jobs away from some people, it's like AI is taking away identities from certain people, and they don't know how to cope.
that's
And I can
exactly.
see a lot of that happening more often in the future.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So we need to be collective in this way and collaborate with one another in our humanness, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I am team humanity.
That's great. We'll get you a t-shirt.